Good evening, ghouls and fiends. Welcome once again to another edition of the Ministry of Horror live, not just on twitch.tv/Tezz, Tezz, but also live on YouTube and on TikTok. So we've been doing a few gaming streams recently, and probably last week I set up a multi-stream so that we could basically stream in more than one location at once. And it's been a lot of fun, actually. I guess I've had to kind of learn to juggle going from not just one screen to another, but having multiple tabs open with multiple different chat areas. So, on the software I use, I can kind of see the chats for most areas where it hits, except TikTok. So TikTok I have to have open as a separate kind of monitor, which is fine. It just takes up more screen space. But been having a great time, really. We've been playing more Dead Space. I've been getting more and more scared because I'm a big wuss when it comes to horror gaming, and that's been fun. Dead Space has been a lot of fun. We've been really getting through Life is Strange double exposure. We are basically on the home straight. We've got the last chapter to do, and we'd already started it. And I know that chapters 4 and 5 are meant to be shorter than the rest of the game. And chapter 4 was definitely very short. So we are basically almost finished with that. And I think that when we finish that, we're either going to jump into Dragon Age the Veilguard, or I guess it would keep it on brand with the whole Life is Strange-esque setup and do Lost, whatever it's called, Lost Records. Don't know, the game which is Life is Strange-like. That is, I think I don't know if it's made by the same studios, maybe by the same sort of makers. But maybe we'll just go ahead and get that. Not too sure. It'll have to be financially making sense because, wedding, honeymoon, that's kind of what kickstarted doing a hell of a lot more streaming, is to try and do what we can to bolster the coffers for the wedding and the honeymoon pot. So as it's the start of the show, I have to get out of the way of my shameless plugs. If you're watching on twitch.tv/Tezz, Tezz, please give the show a follow, which will increase our scope of potential viewership for one, but it will also help. It just generally helps with visibility, right? That's kind of how these things work. So give us a follow on there. If you can subscribe, that is awesome. If you do have Amazon Prime, you get a free Prime sub every month. And just consider using it on the channel. Be much appreciated, but no worries if not. And we have a donate button for PayPal. So if you wanted to support the channel, buy me a cup of coffee, you can do that. We also have, and I know this is probably boring for people and think, fucking hell, just bangs on plug-in and stuff, but it's part of the game. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/Ministry of Horror, where the show goes out exclusive early, 48 hours early, so you can head there. We also have bonus shows coming. We will hopefully be recording the 90 Slay Fiance, where my fiance watches films that will terrify her. or infuriate her, as may well be the case with the first film. We haven't finished that first film yet. It's been a hell of a crazy busy week, so we're going to hopefully finish watching that this weekend. It is a David Lynch film. I thought I'd go easy on her and start with Mulholland Drive. Yet she's got opinions, and that's fine. That's why we're going to be doing this bonus show. So that is going to be coming. So that's kind of the shameless plugs out the way. The donations, subs, followers, all that stuff, Patreon. That's all that kind of out the way. I may do it again near the end of the show, but gonna have to. That's just part of the thing. And I have to give a shout out, of course, to our Patreons. We have Paul, we have Gareth, and we have James. Thank you very much, guys, for supporting the show. We've got Fran the Cannon in the chat on Twitch. Fran says, evening. Yes, Lost Records is developed by Don't Nod Studios, the same as Life is Strange. So, okay, I think I'm going to have to look into potentially picking that up, because I do love the Life is Strange games. Yes, they're not horror. Yes, this is a horror channel, but I am a wuss when it comes to horror games. We know that. If you've watched any of the the Dead Space streams, I jump quite a lot. That's just it freaks me out. But hey, you know, I love horror. I'm just a bit scared when it comes to when it comes to the game side of things. Anyway, so with tonight's show, there is no featured presentation because I haven't thought of one. Again, crazy busy week. But we do have a ton of reviews coming up a bit later on. We're going to talk about just general updates. We're going to get to the horror news, and then we'll get to the reviews. And tonight's reviews, we have a retro review. This time it is Pumpkinhead 2 Blood Wings. I did try and watch a film called The Dead Thing on Shudder. I'm going to be honest, I struggled. It was an erotic horror thriller. I didn't finish it, so I'm not going to review that. But I did watch Bloodstar, Midnight, and Cellar Door. So we've got 4 reviews coming up a bit later on. And then post-show, because this is being recorded, this will be going out on podcast platforms such as Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. We will be doing a watch-along. So returning viewers and listeners of the show will know that we always used to, on Twitch, do watch parties. We're now calling them watch-alongs. Doesn't work quite the same way, but what we'll do is we'll have a look for a film, most likely a film on Amazon Prime, and we are going to watch it. I obviously can't stream the actual film on stream, but what we'll do is it's a watch-along. So I will just queue up the film, give you all an idea of where the timestamps are early on, and watch along at the same time. It's going to be chill. We'll have just have drinks, have snacks, whatever you have available. Basically, obviously, I can't dictate what you eat or drink. But yeah, it's been a busy old week. We picked up a little investment. I've had one of these before, but I sold it because I was never using it. But with our honeymoon road trip across America, we figured we need to have something so we can just kind of be filming and keeping a record, doing like maybe a bit of a vlog, but also just things for like socials and also for the memories, rather than just having to hold a camera, holding a phone up the whole time. So I picked up this, which is a DJI Osmo Pocket 2, a fancy little mini gimbal camera. So if I just sort of turn it on, camera swings around, and you can put it in different modes, put it in different thingamajiggies. Connects up wirelessly to the phone, which is really cool, and should be pretty useful for getting a lot of footage, because not only are we road tripping around America, but also I'm going to be hopefully going to Halloween Horror Nights again, and going to a few cool places like the Shining Hotel. I think it's the Stanley Hotel where the Shining was filmed. So, and I'm going to be doing a Shining tour. So I'm going to be, hopefully, if possible, taking some footage there. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So I think we're going to have a good time recording as we go. As I mentioned, gaming. I've been doing a lot of gaming. Outside of streaming, started Dragon Age the Veilguard, but also been playing with a friend of mine a bit of the campaign of Gears of War 5. I loved the original trilogy. I loved the original trilogy, but I never picked up Judgment, the kind of spin-off that came out around that original sort of 360 run. And I played some of 4. I got very bored of 4 very early, and I think I should have stuck with it, but I just found the early levels of 4 dull as dishwater. And I played some of 5 when it released, but again, I didn't really give it a proper go. But definitely playing with someone has been a lot more fun. So in terms of gaming-wise, I've been playing Gears of War 5 off-stream. We didn't do a retro stream last Sunday, but I will hopefully be returning that this Sunday for more of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So tune in. I guess I can multi-stream it. Maybe it might just go out on Twitch. Maybe multi-stream. Who knows? We'll have to see what works. And that's kind of it. I mean, other than watching the films which we're going to be reviewing, that's been it. It's just been a busy old week. But I think without further ado, Ghouls and Fiends, it's time we get to the horror news. is the news. Ho, ho, ho.
This is God.
This is God indeed. So, without further ado, ghouls and fiends, it's time for the horror news. All my news comes from bloodydisgusting.com. Be sure to check them out for their articles, their news, reviews, and all that good stuff. Now, there is no list for new films released this week. I'll just have a quick refresh in case anything has popped up, because it's always good to do a little rundown of what is on the docket for home and theatre releases. But it doesn't look like we have that just yet. He says slowly to fill time whilst scrolling on screen. No. Okay, we'll move on. So first up in the news, Clown in a Cornfield, red band trailer. There's a new killer clown in town. Sorry, it's one of those weird evenings where it's really, really warm, but you open the window and it's like wind is going crazy outside. So I'm just going to have to roast instead, which is really unpleasant. So this is a write-up from John Squires. Based on Bram Stoker award-winning horror novel by Adam Cesare, the slasher movie Clown in a Cornfield is slaughtering its way into theatres nationwide on May 9th, 2025. RLJE Films and Shudder have released the red band trailer for Clown in a Cornfield this morning, which introduces a brand new killer clown to the world of horror cinema, Friendo. Everyone is a friend of Friendo, and Friendo loves killing his friends. Get a taste of the killer clown's murderous rampage by watching the Bloody Slasher's official trailer below. Eli Craig directed the movie adaptation of the young adult slasher novel, which was published by HarperCollins in 2020 and spawned 2 sequels. Clown in the Cornfield will world premiere at South by Southwest March 10th, 2025. Katie Douglas, Carson McCormack, Aaron Abrams, Will Sasso, and Kevin Durant star. Here's the new plot synopsis. Quinn and her father have just moved to the quiet town of Kettle Springs, hoping for a fresh start. Instead, she discovers a fractured community that has fallen on hard times after the treasured Bacon corn syrup factory burnt down. As the locals bicker amongst themselves and tensions boil over, a sinister grinning figure emerges from the cornfields to cleanse the town of its burdens, one bloody victim at a time. Welcome to Kettle Springs. The real fun starts when Friendo the Clown comes to play. The Clown in the Cornfield movie is said to be a harrowing, savage, heart-pounding adaptation, with director Eli Craig recently promising an insanely fun action horror comedy. Carter Blanchard and Eli Craig adapted the first novel in Adam Cesare's trilogy. The most recent book, The Church of Friendo, released last year with a 4th on the way. So, I do have the audiobook, the Audible, of Clown in a Cornfield, because I'd seen the cover on like a few like Bookstagram or BookTok lists and thought, okay, that looks kind of interesting, I guess. It's a clown-based horror. I do enjoy horror. I do enjoy clown-based horror. I figured I would give it a bit of a go. And whether I didn't give it a proper crack of the whip, I don't know. But I did find myself thinking it's a bit. I don't know if it was how it was written, or what, but it kind of read to me like an author trying to write a slasher film, but in a book, kind of quick. Don't know. I mean, again, that could be a bit too disparaging on my part, but didn't really click with me necessarily. So I've only listened to maybe the first 45 minutes, which probably isn't long enough, but it has got a good fan base, or a rabid fan base, I should say. So I've watched the trailer for this. It does, the fact it's the director of Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is pretty cool. I do enjoy Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, very underrated film. I don't know any other works the director's done off the top of my head. I haven't looked into their Wikipedia or IMDb, but that in itself is pretty cool. The trailer, it does look like there's the comedic element is there. which I don't know if that's necessarily present in the book or if that's something new that's been added. But the appearance of the clown, not sure. It's a little bit jarring to me, and that is in terms of the film looks like it's got a bit of money behind it. It looks it looks like a good production, but it very much is guy in a store-bought clown mask. Now, I haven't listened all the way through Clown at the Cornfield. I can't remember too much. I figured in that it is someone wearing a clown mask as opposed to being an actual clown, like a being, or just a person with clown makeup on. So if that's just how it is, and if that looks as though how it's described in the book, then fair. But it does look a bit like, I don't know. I think I've always thought with clowns in horror, if you're going to do it, do the actual makeup, because someone wearing a clown mask is just infinitely less creepy than actually, being all in the grease paint and really going full hog on it. Hog probably isn't the right word. So in that regard, I'm not too sure, but the trailer does look quite fun. So I will be checking it out, but it's not a series that I really know that much about, and I have given it a try, but maybe not a fair try. Next up, Dario Argento's Phenomena is getting a TV series adaptation from an Italian company. John Squires writes, Dario Argento's Italian horror classic, Phenomena, also known as Creepers, is headed to the small screen, with Variety reporting that Italy's Titanus Productions is behind the series. Phenomena the series is said to reimagine the world of Dario Argento's 1985 horror movie, delivering a unique blend of supernatural intrigue and high-stakes drama. From writers and creators Nicola Guaglione and Menotti, the series follows Jennifer Corvino, an American student at a fencing academy in the glamorous Dolomites who harbours a secret psychic link with insects. As Jennifer navigates the challenges of being the new girl at school, she must also confront a series of brutal murders. With her unique abilities, Jennifer must learn to harness her power to stop the killer, save her comrades, and survive. It was future Oscar winner Jennifer Connelly who played Jennifer Covino in Argento's movie, with the film's cast also including Donald Pleasance, Dario Nicolodi, and Patrick Beauchamp. We have reimagined the visionary world of Dario Argento's iconic film, bringing it to life with a fresh twist that blends the sinister undertone with the pop aesthetic, the show's producer said in a statement shared by Variety this morning. With the work of successful writers Nicola Guglielmi and Menotti, our goal is to make a compelling series with a bold, state-of-the-art aesthetic, honouring the original but speaking to a new generation. The series project is currently being pitched to prospective partners and broadcasters. Okay. I do enjoy Argento, or I should say, I guess, prime Argento, early to mid. He is one of those directors whose work did massively drop off, and it's not just a case of his early stuff's good, much better than his later stuff. It's a lot better. There's some absolute dirge that's been released over the years, but his early entries, Suspiria, Tenebrae, Deep Red, are just absolute stone cold classics. Really, really incredible. This is one of his films I've just never gotten around to really watching. I did start it a little while ago on Prime or Shudder, and I found myself sort of going, okay, bit of a slog. Wasn't really grabbing my full attention, so I didn't stick with it. But it does have a fan base, and it does look a bit crazy. So maybe it's something I need to give another go. In Twitch, we got Eddie. Eddie the Beast is in the chat. Hey, Eddie. Good evening. I don't think I'll be able to stay because my phone needs charging, so I'll be back in an hour for the watch party. No worries, dude. Thank you for stopping by, and catch you later on. Next up in the news, Bring Her Back. Teaser trailer. Talk to Me directors unleash a new A24 nightmare. Again, John Squires write-up. In addition to the Talk to Me sequel, brothers Danny and Michael Filippo are reteaming with A24 for Bring Her Back, and the official teaser trailer has been released today. Sally Hawkins, Billy Barrett, Sora Wong, Johan Wren Phillips, and Sally Ann Upton star in Bring Her Back, which A24 will release in theatres on May 30th, 2025. In the upcoming Bring Her Back, a brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. Watch A24's official teaser trailer below, which features eerie snippets of footage and lays out the general premise behind Bring Her Back without spoiling anything at all. Expect more on this one in the coming weeks. Talk to Me was a huge hit for A24 in 2022. The film scaring up $92 million at the worldwide box office and earning the Filippo brothers rave reviews for their feature debut. Danny and Michael Filippo will return to direct Talk to Me 2 for A24. The Australian duo got their start at the popular YouTube channel Raka Raka, launched back in 2013. Yeah, we talked a lot about Talk to Me when it came out. When I finally got around to watching it, exceeded all my expectations. Like that really blew it out the water for me. It was brilliant. As I've said before on the show, I'd been a big fan of the Raka Raka just because their online videos had this kind of madcap sense of just kind of going crazy doing these stunts, but like they basically made like mini action films, like with a real sense of humor, a real sort of piss take approach to filmmaking. I really did enjoy that stuff. And then Talk to Me is super serious. Like, it is a real heavy subject matter. It's shocking in places. There's a particular moment where you kind of get a vision of, it's almost like hell. And it sticks with you. So Talk to Me was brilliant. Talk to Me 2 being in production. There's a lot of places that they can go with that story. I think we're going to have a new set of characters because I think the setup for it is something that could easily, it established very clearly that this isn't an isolated incident. Like, a lot of people around the world are doing this basically drunk game of communing with the dead. So may have a returning character, perhaps, but I'm interested. Yawning on stream, how bad? I'm interested to see where they go with it for sure. And this new film, the teaser doesn't give too much away, but it does what a teaser needs to. Creates a sense of mystery, uses unsettling imagery, basically gets you asking questions, and gets you interested into what is actually going on here, without giving really anything away. So, sign me up. I'd like to see a full trailer, but I don't want to see anything that's spoiler heavy. I'm very much with them. I want to go along for the ride. I don't want to know too much. I'm up for it. Next up in the horror news, we've got some gaming news now. Grab surreal survival horror FPS Golden Light for free until February 24th. This comes from Mike Wilson. We had mentioned Mr. Pink and Hypertrain Digital surreal meaty survival horror FPS Golden Light when it first launched back in 2022. Now, for a limited time, you can grab the game on Steam for free. That's right, you can grab this survival horror FPS prop hunt roguelike about meat for a cool 100% off until February 24th. A mixture of horror, can't talk, horror, comedy, and just plain weirdness. Golden Light is a procedural dark comedy horror game with roguelike elements and an eerie atmosphere. You must descend into the gut, a nightmarish world of flesh and bone, in order to save your loved one. It only gets stranger from there as you eat your weapons such as bat head, corrupted fetus, fish head, fat lips, meat apple, and more, while questioning just what the hell is going on. Adding to the bizarreness of the procedural levels and the mashup of chunky throwback graphics, which harken back to early PC games with their jaggy polygons and pixelated textures. The game also features online co-op or versus modes, in case you're needing to experience the weirdness with a friend. I clicked on this link because it's a free video game, and I'm always down for freebies. But multiplayer, prop hunt, roguelike. Nah. You're alright, you haven't caught my attention there. But it's a freebie, so if any of those things sound kind of interesting to you or fun to you, you got a couple of days. depending on when you're watching or listening to this, you've got a little bit of time to get a game for free. We'll move on. Fran the chat says, in regards to Get Her Back, I must admit the teaser for this didn't grab me. Oh, interesting, Fran. Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess were you a fan of Talk to Me? Or was it just a case of trailer kind of just looks a bit overtly vague, which is, entirely possible. But yeah, interested to hear what your thoughts were in the chat. Next up in the news, Yellow Jackets season 3 premiere was the show's most streamed episode to date. John Squires writes, now in its 3rd season, the survival horror drama Yellow Jackets is still proving to be a massive hit for the Paramount Plus with Showtime streaming service, with this month's season 3 premiere becoming the most watched episode of Yellow Jackets in the show's history. Deadline reports the premiere episode generated 2.03 million viewers across its debut weekend on Paramount Plus with Showtime. This includes the 3-day streaming audience that tuned in once the episode became available on Friday, as well as any same-day viewers that watched when the episode aired on the linear network Sunday night. Additionally, Deadline let us know this week, Paramount Global also say that this is the most streamed episode in series history, outperforming the Season 2 premiere by 58%. The 3 episodes of Yellow Jackets Season 3 are now streaming, with the season's 10th and final episode arriving April 11th. New episodes debut Fridays on Paramount Plus with Showtime. Created by Ashley Lyle and Bart Nickerson, Yellow Jackets is the saga of a team of high school soccer players who become the survivors of a plane crash deep in the remote northern wilderness. The series chronicles their descent from a complicated team to savage clans, while also tracking the lives they've attempted to piece back together nearly 25 years later. In Yellow Jackets Season 3, which premiered on Valentine's Day as summer arrives, the Yellow Jackets face a fragile victory. The brutal winter that nearly claimed them is finally behind them, but distrust in leadership and tension within the team jeopardize their chances of being rescued. In the present, long-buried secrets from their past begin to surface. As the women fight to keep their lives from unraveling, they must confront a chilling question. Who are they really, and what dark truths are they hiding from each other and themselves? Okay, so I really enjoyed Yellow Jacket Season 1. Essentially binged it, I think. I feel from memory I watched it when all the episodes were available, or if not most of them, and then caught up from there. When Season 2 rolled around, I think it was just more of a case of I'd moved away from my flat, moved in with my girlfriend, now fiance, and time became a bit more kind of limited of what I could make time to watch, because it's not like where you can just go, right, each evening if you're just in, I'll watch this, I'll watch that, I'll watch this. Things aren't, your partner isn't going to be interested in certain things. And to be fair, Yellow Jackets isn't something that we've ever really chatted about. But I think maybe when Season 2 had sort of started, I'd sort of mentioned about it, but we hadn't watched Season 1. And so I'd then kind of forgotten about it. As Season 3 was rolling around, though, I have gone back onto Paramount Plus, which annoyingly now has ads. I've ranted about that before. But since watching Season 1, I've now got ads to deal with, which whatever is what it is. But I have gone to Season 2, and I'm about 3 episodes in now. But what I do need to do is just go, right, once a week. Let's watch an episode once a week, and then just commit to that hour. Kind of similar to what I'm doing with a rewatch of Twin Peaks. Season 2 of Twin Peaks is a difficult rewatch because there's a period where it just gets really a real big lull. But that lull isn't quite as bad as I remember. It is more just like 3 or 4 episodes that are kind of crap. It's just a bit different. It's just not the same. Anyway, Yellow Jackets, Season 3, doing well. I do wonder, though, I guess my only kind of fear would be I don't want it to be one of those shows where it has that Lost syndrome, where each season, you got some really interesting questions. Oh, God, what could this mean? What could this mean? But then when it comes to actually answering those queries or questions, it's just either gets brushed under the rug or it does get answered, but it's not a very coherent answer, or it just seems a bit kind of like made up on the fly. That's why I've been hesitant to watch season 3 of From. Series 1 and 2 were really, really good. Like, it is quite a nasty horror show. But I did start wondering, because I know it's got Damon Lindelof on board from Lost, I did start wondering, is it just going to be one of those shows where we've got these interesting questions? What is this? What's causing this? What's going on here? But then rather than answer these queries, we just get more questions. And I guess it depends on what the plan is for the length of the show. I just don't want to be 4 seasons into Yellow Jackets and going, I still don't know what happened here. I still don't, you have to. And again, I haven't finished season 2, so I don't know if any of this is done in season 2. But you have to resolve some plot threads. You want to keep intrigue. You want to keep viewers guessing and keep, asking questions. But you do also need to answer some questions along the way. And I guess that's just been my fear. And that could be a very unfounded fear, but I mean, it's up to me to just watch it and make my mind up, but there we go. Next up in the news, we got some comic book movie news. Eden Lake filmmaker directing Clayface movie written by Mike Flanagan. John Squires writes, Mike Flanagan, The Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass, and Doctor Sleep, is writing a Clayface movie for DC, with THR confirming this afternoon that the director has been found. Flanagan himself will not be directing the upcoming Clayface movie, with James Watkins, Eden Lake, The Woman in Black, Speak No Evil, taking a seat in the director's chair. Warner Bros. Will release DC's live-action Clayface movie on September 11th, 2026. The Hollywood Reporter details, sources say the film is budgeted at $40 million and is a Hollywood horror tale centering on a B-movie actor who injects himself with a substance to keep himself relevant, only to find that he can reshape his face and form, becoming a walking piece of clay. The movie is due to shoot later this year. Flanagan tweeted back in 2021 that his dream Clayface movie was a horror thriller tragedy, and it sounds like that's ultimately the movie he ended up writing for DC. The Clayface character was introduced by DC Comics in Detective Comics number 40 way back in June 1940, an adversary of Batman with a clay-like form and shape-shifting abilities. The character has been played on screen in both animation and live action, with actors including Alan Tudyk, Ron Perlman, and Brian McManamon and Lorraine Burroughs having played the role. Matt Reeves and Lynn Harris were produced through 6th and Idaho Productions, and as a reminder, James Gunn and Peter Safran are now the heads of DC Studios. So I'm not aware of Clayface in live action. I have to have a little look. Because I don't think we've had a live action. Has there ever been a live action Clayface? The opening credits of Batman 1966. Really? Wasn't aware of that. Okay. Well, anyway, I think with Clayface, okay, Mike Flanagan, good pedigree there. James Watkins, good pedigree there. So this has the makings to be pretty decent if done well and whatnot. But if it's a horror thriller tragedy, then that does sound as though we're following the character Clayface. So Clayface is going to be our protagonist, if not anti-hero. I hope it doesn't go down that route, because Sony and Marvel, or Sony with Marvel properties, have tried that, and I don't think it's been successful yet. Morbius and Craven, both characters that are typically villains. So why are we having films focused on them? Surely they should be part of a rogues gallery. Not that I'm saying let's have multiple villains like Sinister Six or whatnot, but have them as the baddie in a Spider-Man film. And I would think the same thing with Clayface. Now, as I say, it's got some good pedigree behind it, but I think of Clayface purely as a Batman villain. Tragic Batman villain, because a lot of Batman villains are tragic, but that doesn't mean I want to follow their story. So I have a bit of trepidation, but I do feel that it does seem to be in the right hands. It's got the right people working on it. But it is just a case of, like, you know, learn from the Sony approach of making films focusing on a rogues gallery. And I'm not going to include Venom in that, because I know Venom has been quite successful. I thought the first Venom film was fun, but Venom is originally a villain, then became an anti-hero, and you know, he is both kind of associated with an uneasy alliance with Spider-Man, along with being a villain. So he tiptoes that line, I suppose, but you know, he's got more name value, I would say, than a lot of these other ones. Fran in the chat, sounds like this will be based on the first Clayface. There's been several. That version is inspired by actors like Lon Chaney and his Phantom of the Opera. So, yeah, it has the potential to be interesting, but I just sort of think, I don't know. I don't want it to be another Morbius or Craven. And I haven't seen Craven, to be fair, but I have seen Morbius. And that was a very much a nothing film, in my opinion. It's just one of those films that it occurred. It was made. I watched it. I did retain nothing from it. So, you know. And that's a tragic character, which is most often associated as a villain. I think in more modern comics, he's a good guy, but generally, I remember him as a tragic villain. And finally, some sad news in the horror world. Phantasm star Reggie Bannister enters hospice care. Fans can send cards and letters to this address. This is a write-up from Alex DiVincenzo. So, Phantasm franchise star Reggie Bannister is entering home hospice care, and he'd like to hear from you. As anyone who ever met him at a convention or worked with him on a movie can attest, Bannister is a remarkably kind man who's truly grateful for his fans, PHANs. In his time of need, fans are encouraged to share their appreciation for Bannister by sending letters to Reggie Bannister, P.O. Box 4387, Crestline, California, 92325. So the cult actor was diagnosed with dementia and Parkinson's disease in 2016, which was stabilized until last week when he collapsed. Friend and colleague Russell Greywolf Malk shared the update on Facebook. He's still cognitive, so that's good, but his body is failing. Reggie and Gigi, his wife, had planned ahead and made an advance directive. As a result, Reggie will be going home from the VA soon for home hospice care. There's no prognosis or time frame. It is his wish to be home and around family in their little mountain cabin. He's not suffering, and he's happy to be going home. We do not know the length of time that we will have together, but are happy to have the time left. Please know how much Reggie and Gigi love their fans, friends, and colleagues. Bannister played shotgun-toting ice cream man Reggie in Phantasm and all 4 of its sequels. Phantasm 2, 3, Lord of the Dead, 4, Oblivion, and, well, it's not got 5 in it, but Phantasm Ravager. He also appeared in Bubba Hotep, Wishmaster, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation, The Mangler Reborn, and The Rage, among others. A military veteran, Bannister served in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. He used his GI Bill to study acting. So it's very sad news. Very, very, very sad news. I do enjoy the Phantasm films. The first 3 are a lot of fun. For just madcap nonsense horror with great soundtracks, great set pieces, you know, low budget but great set pieces and great performances, Reggie being one of them. If you aren't really familiar with the Phantasm series, I did do a show on it a little while ago, but I would search out, and I think they are on Shudder or MGM Plus, most of those films. Check them out. I would definitely give them a watch. They don't make a huge... Well, they do make sense, but they don't make a huge amount of sense. You have to take a few leaps of logic. But I mean, in horror, when don't you have to take some leaps of logic with franchises in particular? So yeah, if you do want to pass on your well wishes, or you know, just send a message, in general to Reggie. It's Reggie Bannister, P.O. Box 4387, Crestline CA 92325. And that is it, Ghouls and Fiends, for the horror news. That was the news. Ho, 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 ho.
You hang up on me again, I'll cut you like a fish, understand?
There we go. Even managed a quick swig of drink. Fran in the chat. Faded actor playing with goo. DC's take on Substance. That's a high bar for that to reach. Substance was killer. Love that. Okay, so without further ado, Ghouls and Fiends, it's time for the horror reviews. There we go. I'm honestly, I am baking. Considering it's February, I've got the heating turned off. I've got the door closed just because the dogs, they tend to bark every 5 minutes at just anything. But if I open the window, oh my god, it's just like my blind next to me will be banging around. It'll be making my door rattle in its frame. Really irritating, but it's roasting right now. So we're just going to have to make do. Right, reviews. First up in the reviews is going to be our retro review. So I finally got around to watching Pumpkinhead 2. Now, Pumpkinhead we watched on stream quite a while ago. Classic horror film with Lance Henriksen, directed by Stan Winston in his directorial debut, and it might be one of his only credits as a director, but a legendary effects personality. I know that there's been a couple of sequels. I think that there's 2 further sequels, both made for TV films, and I think they might have been shot back to back. So I never got around to watching these. But Pumpkinhead is a lot of fun. It's got a great look, decent story, a very sort of basic kind of setup. But I never got around to watching any of the sequels. Well, for a little while, I have had as a free channel, I think it cost me like £1 for the month, MGM Plus. And it's a service I have used before, but I just never really actually used it that often. So I kind of just thought, well, okay, it's £1. I'm sure there's got some stuff on there. They got some classic horrors in there. A lot of the ones that, if you're like me, you probably have seen before, but not all of them. And I happened to notice that Pumpkinhead 2 was on there. And I thought, okay, well, let's actually give this a go. So with all of our horror reviews, we'll talk about the highs. We'll talk about the plot. We'll talk about the highs, the lows, and then I'm going to give it a score out of 10. Now, with all reviews, this is just my opinion. It's not the gospel. And if people have a differing opinion or want to discuss, hit up on socials, on X, ministry_horror. We're also on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. So you got all your options there if you have opinions on any of the horrors mentioned. So Pumpkinhead 2. Bloodwing is a 1994 American supernatural horror film and a sequel to the 1988 horror film Pumpkinhead. In this film, thrill-seeking teens resurrect a demon and come to regret it. The film is loosely connected to others in the series and was released in some territories under the title Pumpkinhead: The Demon Returns. The PC video game Bloodwing's Pumpkinhead's Revenge was released shortly after the film. I wasn't actually aware of the video game. I don't know if there's any in-game graphics. It's got very low scores, so apparently it's a Doom ripoff. Anyway, we'll talk about the opening of the film. We won't go too much into it, but we'll sort of talk about the opening moments. In 1958, in Ferren Woods, a small backwater town, an old blind witch, Ms. Ozzy, feeds a deformed orphan named Tommy. He is the offspring of Pumpkinhead. As Tommy eats, a car of 6 thugs pull up and notice him. Convinced that he is some demonic monster, they chase him with switchblade knives and baseball bats. Eventually, they corner him at an old iron mine, where they bludgeon him, slash him, and drop him down into the mine, deliberately killing him. In 1993, 35 years later, Sheriff Sean Braddock, who was friends with Tommy before his murder, his wife and his daughter Jenny have come into town. Sean grew up in Ferren Woods and returned when offered a job as the local sheriff. Jenny has often gotten herself into a lot of trouble with the law, especially with her father, who was once a police officer. At school, Jenny meets a group of wild kids, one of whom is Danny Dixon, whose dad was one of the greasers who had taken part in Tommy's murder 35 years ago and has since become the town judge. The teens sneak off one night and pilfer Sean's car. Danny inadvertently hits Ms. Olsey, and when they go back to her cabin to check on her, they find a spell book and vials of blood, which she is planning to use to resurrect Tommy. After Ms. Olsey catches them, she orders them out. Tommy knocks her down and escapes with a vial of blood. Okay, we've read through almost 2/3 of the synopsis, and it hasn't got to things kicking off. But things kick off, as you can imagine. They inadvertently resurrect Pumpkinhead. Now, in terms of the cast, Andrew Robinson, I need to look at his IMDb because he is quite a recognisable actor in this, but I can't off the top of my head think what films I recognise him from. Hellraiser. He was Larry Cotton, or Frank Cotton, in Hellraiser. He was also in a couple of the Dirty Harry films. Child's Play 3, The Puppet Masters. I don't know that one. TV shows. There's been a lot of TV over the years. Still ongoing. Star Trek Lower Decks, X-Files, blah, blah, blah. He's a very recognisable actor. But we also do have Kane Hodder in quite a small role. Linnea Quigley, I recognise her. So essentially, there's a few actors in this that you may recognise from other things. Arguably better things. But I don't want to be too disparaging because really this isn't too bad of a film. I mean, Pumpkinhead itself looks pretty decent considering this isn't a Stan Winston production. I don't know who did the effects behind the scenes. It was directed by Jeff Burr, who had done Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, The Stepfather Part 2, a couple of the Puppet Master films. So it's got a bit of a name in horror. And it's basically, the way to summarize it is it's your run-of-the-mill 80s, 90s sequel. Possibly direct to video. I'm not sure if this had a cinematic release. Release direct to video. In terms of direct to video sequels, it's pretty good, actually. The kills themselves, I made a note of one of the kills because I was just like, okay, well, I need to talk about that. There's a backbreaker, like literally one character is held up before being slammed down on Pumpkinhead's knee to have their back broken. Someone else gets their head torn off. Like, it doesn't shy on the kills. The kills are pretty good. And for a horror film, I guess that's what you want. The blood wings element of the subtitle, it doesn't have wings, this Pumpkinhead. It's more, that's kind of symbolic, a symbol used at each of these murders that's occurring. But it is an entity which is out for vengeance. So it's not quite the same story as in the first film where someone has had a tragedy strike their child and they make a deal, which in turn is slowly taking their soul. But it is again a revenge element in the tale. Now, will I be watching the sequels? 3 and 4? I'm not sure. I'm going to have a quick look on Prime Video and just see if they are available. Pumpkinhead in Prime Video. So Pumpkinhead 1 is on Prime Video. Pumpkinhead 2 is also showing as Prime Video. But I think that's because I have MGM Plus. I'm not even seeing... Oh, Pumpkinhead Blood Feud. You can buy on DVD. It's a film from 2007. You can buy it on DVD for £60. And Pumpkinhead... What was the other one called? So that's Blood Feud. And what was the other sequel? Pumpkinhead. Sequel. Pumpkinhead Ashes to Ashes. I'm not seeing that in the list. Pumpkinhead 4, Pumpkinhead Ashes to Ashes. You can get the double pack for $45.91. That seems extortionate. So, in short, my answer to the original question I asked myself, no, I will not be watching Pumpkinhead 3 and 4. I think that kind of goes without saying right now. So, what would I give this out of 10? I think it's entertaining enough for what it is. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's not exemplary. There's no particular moments in this. I mean, I made a note of the backbreaker because that's the whole, it's a wrestling move. But in terms of, it's decent. It is decent. I don't think it's good enough to be a 7, but it's certainly not a bad sequel as far as direct-to-video sequels go. It's worth a watch. If you've got MGM Plus in the UK, you can watch it there. But 6.5 for Pumpkinhead 2. It's fine. And then next up, I watched the 2021 Korean thriller, Midnight. Written and directed by Kwon Oh-sung. The film stars Kim Ji-joo, Wee Ha-jun, and Kim Hae-yoon, depicting a life-threatening hide-and-seek scenario between a psychopathic killer and a deaf woman. The film was slated to release in 2020, but its release was postponed due to the resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic. Finally, the film was released simultaneously in theatres and via streaming media TVing on June 30th, 2021. Midnight was also made available on IQIYI from 18th of September 2021. So this film appeared on my radar because we discussed it on the horror news, probably going back a year, maybe 2. And I just remember at that particular time reading the blurb and thinking, oh, okay, this sounds kind of interesting. A cat and mouse thriller. Yeah, sign me up. I do enjoy my thrillers. We don't get enough good ones. And it hadn't really had a proper UK release. I remember looking around on Amazon and it was generally showing as you could order the import. And imports are always a bit of a funny game. I know with European imports, they generally will work on Blu-ray players. Now, I don't have a Blu-ray player per se. I've got an Xbox and a PlayStation. But I don't think that they are multi-region. I'm sure before I picked up like a US release of something and it didn't work. I'd heard that, well, yeah, the consoles are now multi-region. That's nonsense. So I've never really, I think I'd borrowed actually. I borrowed some, I think Jess Franco films from a friend of mine and guest on the show, Peter Goddard. And they just didn't work. So a waste of me borrowing those films. But eventually I saw that this had appeared on Shudder. So I was very, 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 very hyped to watch it. Added it to my watch list that I never actually look at what is on my watch list. And I kind of thought, okay, definitely going to need to watch this. The thing is, me getting the time to watch a film where it's going to have my full attention with no interruptions is limited, to say the least. So I kind of figured, I don't want to watch this in segments. I want to be able to put this on and just be engaged in the film from start to finish. And that's generally how I like to watch films. It doesn't always occur that way, just such as life. Interruptions occur. Help is needed that can't wait an hour and a half. So it had been a while before I kind of thought, you know what, I'm actually going to be able to sit down, give this a go. But eventually I thought, right, let's do this. So earlier this week, I blocked out my calendar and I put on Midnight. So I'll talk a bit about the setup. Kyung-mi is a deaf woman and a sign language counsellor at the Sign Language School Centre who becomes the target of serial killer Do-sik after she witnessed him stabbing So-jun. Jong-tak, So-jun's brother and a security guard, sets out to protect his sister and Kyung-mi. On the other hand, Kyung-mi's death mother also learns about this and helps Jong-tak in protecting them. So that is giving away a little bit much, but there's not really a hell of a lot much on the blurb to go on. So the film opens with this serial killer who uses a van that he uses to lure women into. And he tends to already have a victim in the van that he just takes his time with. Like, he's quite sadistic in terms of he'll stab them and then carry them around in his van while they're slowly bleeding out to death. And he's hunting other victims. We don't necessarily get too much into this character as to their motivations, what has led them to this path. It's more so a case of we are following Kyung-mi and also So-jung to a degree during this one fateful evening. And it really is a cat and mouse film in terms of once Kyung-mi has witnessed the murder, witnessed the attempted murder, she is then being chased and pursued throughout the city. And because of her being deaf, that is quite an interesting plot device in this, because there are moments where she is trying to get away from him by opening a gate in a car parking lot. And to her, she's trying to be conscious of making sure that she unlocks this gate quietly. But we're following her view at points, not POV, but following her perspective at times. And it's just stone silent, maybe a bit of a hum sound. And then we cut to the other perspective, and you can hear like the lock rattling around and causing his attention to be diverted to it. And that works nicely. There's a few moments where she has in her car like a little decibel meter to kind of see when loud noises are occurring. So there's a moment when she's waiting to pick up her mother. Her mother sees her and is running towards her full pelt because she's very excited to see her. And Kyung-mi can see in her car that the decibel meter is kind of going crazy. So she has to kind of wave and say, no, stop, because she can see from this that a car is coming. It's quite useful because that does work in a few instances later on in her being pursued by Do-sik. There's some pretty cool fight scenes in this. It is more thriller than horror, more stalking. It's not so much a stalk and slash. There's not that much actual murdering going on, but it does sort of highlight how perspective can be used against characters. There's certain moments where a character thinks that they're safe because they've run away into a city area, but because they themselves are acting erratically because they're scared, it draws attention onto themselves as opposed to the individual that they're running from. So it's a bit of a nice dichotomy. I can't think of the word. It's a nice split between their perspective and the people around them's perspective of what is going on. Works quite nicely. Performances in this are pretty good. The soundtrack is more it's not so much a soundtrack, just more kind of building tension. And some nice chase sequences in it. Yeah, did it live up to expectations? To an extent. It had some, like I said, it had some good chase sequences, but it wasn't like the stalk and slash chases that you'd get from something like Dress to Kill, which Dress to Kill is a very underrated thriller. Or, like from an animated world of Perfect Blue. It doesn't have that kind of element of stalk and slash or terror chasing. But it did have some good moments where you are just rooting for Kyung-mi to just get away because she's being pursued, and it is not looking good. But because we don't see that much of an end result of how brutal this character can be, we get an implication of that, but we don't really see so much of that. That does, for me, restrict it from kind of going above a 7. I'll give it 7 out of 10 for Midnight. I enjoyed it, but I do think it could have gone further, personally. I think that just sort of maybe held it back from being a really, really good landmark thriller, or return to form of the thriller genre. So 7 out of 10 for Midnight. Now, last night, I watched a film that I got confused with another film. So on Prime Video, the new film Cellar Door is on there now. And I thought that this was a different film about a cellar door. I saw it said horror, thriller, drama. And I thought it was something we talked about in the news a little while ago, which had a cellar door element to it. And in that film, I thought that there was a witch in the cellar. It's not that film. Spoilers that there's no witch in this film, but I got it confused and I watched this instead. So, Cellar Door, formerly titled The Offer, is a 2024 American thriller film written by Sam Scott and Laurie Evans Taylor, directed by Vaughn Steen and starring Jordana Brewster, Scott Speedman, Lawrence Fishburne, and Addison Timlin. So typically, there is no blurb on on Wikipedia. So let's have a quick look at the IMDb. Looking for a fresh start after a miscarriage, a couple find themselves being gifted the house of their dreams with one caveat. They can never open the cellar door. Whether they can live without knowing triggers shocking consequences. Okay, so I watched this one on Prime literally last night. And yeah, it does open with this unfortunate situation where they've been trying IVF for a child, and one day when Jordana Brewster's character is home alone and the husband is out working, she unfortunately has a miscarriage and can't get hold of him. So they decide that they need to move. They can't stay in this house that they've been preparing to start a family in, or this apartment. So they start looking around, and during their look, they fall in love with a particular town, which I think is near to their work. They don't really want to look outside of that town, but every house they're looking at is out of their price range, or if it is in their price range, they'd have to be spending a ton to get it in a livable condition, and it's becoming a bit demotivating. So their estate agent says, "Oh, you need to talk to this guy. You know, he knows every property in the area, and he will know, you know, what will work for you." So they go to Lawrence Fishburne's enormous estate. It's a huge mansion, massive long driveway, and just an incredible property. And he asks them, like, you know, what would you do if you had this house? And they're like, "Oh, I don't know." And he's like, "Yeah, just what would you do if you had this house?" They can't really answer it. They end up having a lovely evening, drinking and having a grand old time, and they end up staying there. When they wake in the morning, he's gone. Lawrence Fishburne's gone. He's left them a note. He has left them the house and everything in it. That is all theirs, free of charge, to live the life that they deserve. There's only one caveat. The cellar door is locked. You cannot open the cellar door. In the event that you do open the cellar door, the house reverts back to him and everything in it. So there you go. It's a simple caveat, but it automatically rings the alarm bells of, why would you be willing to give away a house on on the basis that the cellar door isn't opened? What could be in there that would be that, you know, extreme? What's going on here? And typically this kind of goes the places that you would think it would go, with a mixture of surprise and intrigue as the film progresses. This one wasn't for me. It's your psychological thriller that thinks it's a bit smarter than it actually is. We have some twists and turns, some revelations. We're essentially following predominantly Scott Speedman's character's pursuit of the truth, while also uncovering that he may not be as nicey as he thinks, as he seems. But then at the same point, Jordana Brewster's character isn't quite as naive as she may initially seem. So it's that sort of thriller. It's not really a horror. It doesn't have a witch in the cellar, which I thought it did. Yeah, it falls into your trapping for me of your typical psychological thriller. Middle of the road. There's no like particularly bad performances in it. I mean, Scott Speedman is an actor where I know the name, but I can't tell you any other films that he's been in. Like, I'll have a quick look at his IMDb. Who's in Underworld? Yeah, I've seen Underworld. Can't remember it really. He was in The Strangers. I mean, I remember Liv Tyler in that. I can't remember his character of James Hoyt. Grey's Anatomy, never seen it. Crimes of the Future, can't remember him in that. The Monster, seen that. I can't remember him being in it. My point is, he's quite forgettable, I think. And Jordana Brewster, she's been in some films. She's been in some horrors, which escape me now. I want to say A Final Destination. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning. There we go. She's in Heart Eyes, which I would like to watch. I have a feeling I may have missed the cinema run. I'll just have a quick look at Heart Eyes, because I would like to watch it. I'm hopefully going to watch The Monkey next week. That is the plan. Heart Eyes. So it's available late night tonight. Got a few screenings tomorrow, a few screenings on Saturday. Sunday's only one. There's still some screenings on Monday. What's a My Odeon saver? Premier seats continues that like cheap. Is it cheap? Check out as guest. No, 16 quid. That's not cheap. Maybe if I logged in, then it would be cheaper. I'm not buying a ticket anyway. The Faculty, thank you, Fran the Cannon. Yes. I think I was partially disappointed because I thought it was a different film than it was, and also it's kind of boring. 5 out of 10 for Cellar Door. I don't really have much to kind of add on that other than watched it. Quickly realised it wasn't the film I thought it was, but I think we've all been there. 5 out of 10 for Cellar Door. And then finally for tonight's reviews, another Prime watch that I had, Bloodstar. Bloodstar is a 2024 psychological thriller film directed by Lawrence Giacomelli in his directorial debut from a script he wrote with Victoria Taylor and George Kelly and based on the short story Don't Look Back. As produced by Giacomelli Taylor and Zanya Tabi, the film stars John Schwab, Brittany Camacho, Sidney Brumfield, Travis Lincoln Cox, Felix Murbach, and Wyoming Reed. Shot in Palmdale, California, Bloodstar follows the harrowing journey of a young girl trapped in a nightmarish cat-and-mouse game with a psychopathic sheriff in New Mexico. So, at night, a girl stumbles down a desert road, pursued by a car. A man gives her a gun and 1 bullet. She loads the gun and aims it at the approaching vehicle, but the car smashes into her. A new day, Bobby Torres drives her 1977 Ford Mustang down a desert highway when her sister Anne calls, urging her to leave her abusive boyfriend Rhett. At a remote gas station, she encounters the sheriff who offers her a soda, which she declines. Anne calls again, comparing Rhett to their father, triggering Bobby's anger. She speeds along the highway and is pulled over by the same sheriff who accuses her of damaging his light bar. He demands $300 and takes her phone. Returned to the gas station, Bobby finds the ATM broken and her card declined. The attendant buys her a beer and warns her about the sheriff, advising her to leave the county. The sheriff ambushes Bobby, shoots her car's lights and tire. He harasses her, takes her license, and demands payment. Bobby escapes on her foot after he forces her car off the road. So, this is one of those Prime watches that I took a chance on, and I am glad I did. I don't really know anything about Bloodstar. I don't know if we've talked about this on the news on a previous show. It's not jumped out to me. But I thought, okay, trailer for it looked kind of decent on Prime. Let's give it a go. And this is a good cat and mouse thriller. So, the sheriff's pursuit of Bobby is one in which he is really sort of testing her limits. It kind of has an element, as the film gets further on, of Wolf Creek, in a way, with the thoughts and the machinations of the sheriff as they kind of get revealed. But this film does a good job of giving us some element of their motivations without going too much into it, without giving everything away. It sets up that this sheriff has been playing this game for quite a while with a number of different women, essentially. And there very much is a start to his game and there is an end to his game. And at the start of the film, we saw the end of his game with a different girl. So we know where this story may well be going. But there's some great performances in this. I think Brittany Camacho is brilliant in the lead as Bobby. She's got that kind of tough girl sass where she's not afraid to backchat, but there is genuine terror in moments when she makes a friend, and it's looking like they're gonna just try and get out of this town. That doesn't go well when the friend's head explodes in front of her. So we get some decent elements of gore in this film, and the violence in it is not gratuitous, but it will make you squirm in certain points. There's certain moments where you're just like, oh fucking hell, that's grim, without being over the top with gratuity. So that's a positive with it. And it's a film where it does make you wonder, is this just going to go down that route of being like, we're following this pursuit and it's all just going to be depressing and we're going to be left feeling a bit shallow and hollow. And I won't bury the lead here. I won't ruin the finale or give any kind of major spoilers away. But what this film does do well is creates great sense of panic and terror. And you really do feel as if you're in the car with Bobby when she's being pursued by this insane sheriff. And I say insane sheriff, he's playing quite a calm, mild-mannered individual who just happens to be a bit psychopathic. It teeters that line pretty nicely. So for Bloodstar, I'm gonna give it. Gotta give it a 7.75 out of 10. I don't think it quite hits an 8 out of 10, but it's gonna hit a 7.75. It's pretty damn good. It's certainly much better than I was expecting for a film that I haven't heard of or seen anything about. Took a go on watching it on Prime Video, and yeah, 7.75 for Bloodstar. Right, Ghouls and Fiends, that is it. We're coming to the end of the traditional Ministry of Horror show, but we are live. We're live, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. So we're going to be continuing. We're going to have a watch along. So, as mentioned, I can't stream the show. I can't put a film on my actual stream, but we're going to find a film on a streaming platform, and we're going to put out timestamps. Going to watch a film together, have a drink, have some snacks, have a good time. So I need to do my general plug-in that I did at the start of the show. If you want to support the channel on Twitch, there's a donate button. You can buy me a cup of coffee or help with the wedding and honeymoon pop. We also have subscribers. If you want to be a subscriber or use your Prime subscription on Twitch, you can do that. TikTok, you can gift, blah, blah, blah. Patreon, patreon.com, Ministry of Horror. All that stuff that I have to plug, and it always feels like, it kind of cringy doing it, but you got to plug it, otherwise how does it kind of get out there? And if you're not getting out there, then what is the point? Thank you very much for watching this on whatever platform you're watching it on. Be sure to follow, be sure to share it around with your friends, co-workers, family members, whatever. If you listen to this on podcast platforms, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, be sure to follow the show so you get the show as soon as it drops. And yeah, that is it for all the plug-in. Catch you next time. And if you're into video games, head to twitch.tv/Tezz. We stream 3 times a week with video games. Right. Goodbye.